Hi, everybody. This is very last minute. I am Daphne. I am the host of the Ditching the 9 to 5 Facebook group, as well as the founder of the Free at 50 blog. And I'm coming at you today because this morning, one of the first things I thought of is I was thinking about the branding posts that I've been putting up this week, and some of you have been commenting on. I know there's a need for, all kinds of marketing and help with that. So this morning, I just all of a sudden decided I was going to reach out to my friend Blaire, who is coming onto the camera as she's being added. She's a brand strategist. I put my interview with her in the link or in the description of the video. And yeah, so it was super early in the morning, and I just had this thought about I hadn't gone live in a while with another expert. And I reached out to Blaire first thing. She's on East Coast time like me, and so excited that you thought this was a good idea, and you had a spot in your schedule that you shot back to me, so we were able to do it.
I'm excited. I woke up to a fun surprise that I'm going to be on camera with you today, so I'm loving it.
Yeah, I mean, we do chat a lot. We go back and forth, and I really respect, and I'm still working through the course that you have put together because I'm being very thoughtful about it. Some of the stuff in the beginning of the course, which I know we're going to get to, some of the things that entrepreneurs need to focus on. I had already thought about those things, but not in the in-depth, basically the comprehensive way that you present it. And I think going forward, it's going to make such an impact on me as an entrepreneur and my brand, which is why I support it with an affiliate promotion. So I'm working on that course, and I'm thinking it through. And this morning I was just like, I got to get Blaire on, and we got to talk about some of the mistakes people make, because now I'm going a little bit backwards, looking at my brand and figuring out how to do it exactly, right. I know there's no such thing as perfect, but
We all do that. I mean, you're going to
yeah.
probably brand a few times, it's just a part of having a brand. Whenever you start thinking about it in a more in-depth way and how you present yourself as a brand, you start thinking, oh, wait, I really do need to make some tweaks. Just in general, everybody does it. Because, sometimes whenever you're building a business, you just throw these ideas out there just to get things moving. And I get that, but you got to think about it. So I'm glad that you're taking the course and that you're really thinking it through. Because I always tell people, I mean, you technically can binge it, like Netflix binge, but I recommend taking your time so that way you really feel confident about what you're putting out there.
Yeah, I mean, and not to give it all away, which I can't, because there's workbooks and there's a lot of really good information that you provide personally. But, it does make you go back and look at who are, your competition, people doing similar things as you, and really figure out, funny thing, and I think this is going to help me, your course is going to help me. I thought that I might have a certain age range that follow my brand. But when I look at actually who's clicking on things, it's not necessarily that age range, but that might be why they're not converting, because my messaging isn't directed the right way. So I think it's super important. And let's just dive right in right off of that, because that's a mistake I might be making. What's your and I don't really know that these are necessarily in order, right? There's a lot of mistakes we make, but let's talk about one.
Okay.
Of three we're going to talk about today. Go.
Sure. So the one I think is time and time again, I hear everybody tell me is, well, I'm just going to post something for my brand. As long as I keep posting something, I'm going to get sales in return. Now, I get it, because it does seem like that's the move, that's the solution. And then when people have this mindset, then they're constantly churning out content without a plan, and then they just get burnt out. And that's what's sad. It's we don't want you to get burnt out. So creating content just to post content for the sake of it isn't really the move. So that's the first mistake I would say new entrepreneurs are facing all the time. And I think the reason, well, when you think about it this way. You might look at your competitors and they are cranking out content all the time.
Right.
You got to think about it. How long have they been in business? They may be in business for 7 years. You've been in business for 7 months. You're going to have different tactics because you're in different timelines and phases of your business. So you don't want to burn yourself out if you're trying to be like the big guys at that point, just by cranking out content with no intention behind it. So when you're branding yourself, you really need to think about how to post with intention and how it aligns with your brand and your call to action, what you want them to do. If you want them to, click and sign up for a consult call or make a purchase or just sign up for your email list. Think about that whenever you're creating the content and how it also resonates with the right people. Like you said, you went through your data, and you were realizing, oh, it's other people that are clicking on the content. That's thinking like that. That's with intention. That's what's going to make your branding stand out the most. So don't compare yourself to other people in a way of like, oh, they're posting all the time, I need to do it too. That's what's going to make sales, because it's not necessarily going to make sales. So that's one thing to think about. And also, they might even have a team. If they have a team and they're posting content all the time, that makes it so much easier for them, right? If you're doing you're wearing every cap, you have to have a strategy, right?
Exactly. And we're told about being consistent. I mean, every webinar you watch, everything you read, it's like consistency, consistency, consistency. But that doesn't necessarily mean every single day. It's quality over quantity, right?
Yeah, and you can't, consistency, don't get me wrong, that's super important. Right. But I'm just saying, like, if you're literally just throwing content and it has
exactly
brand, you got to just think, does it make sense for my brand? That's the thing. So be consistent about posting for sure, but like, don't just throw something online just because you liked the post or something, You
have to be intentional. I love that you said that, to be intentional.
Yeah, a way to be intentional is to like sit down and think it through, like set up a plan. If you take a week out of your life and just sit down and like crank out a plan, let's say like an hour a night or something, while you could have Netflix on in the background, who cares? But setting it up is just going to make your content creation so much easier.
Yeah.
So that's my little pro tip there.
Yes. But of course you have to, there's more to it in the long run. That's great on the front end, but taking a course like yours can really help because it helps you with the messaging. And so even though you might have a call to action plan where you want to grow your email list or whatever it is, you got to be saying the right things with your content too, and understanding your ideal reader, customer, client.
Yeah, like I worked with somebody a few months ago, and her messaging was just all over the place. It's just like she was saying one thing, doing another, and saying another thing over here, and then another thing here. And I was like, girl,
yeah.
Like, I'm glad you called me because we need to fix this now because it's confusing me.
Yes.
You just have to make it less confusing or zero confusion, really. Because I always tell people, if there's confusion, it's going to be a no for sales. So get rid of that.
And that really segues into your second point, right? About your audience size and who your audience is. Next mistake.
The second mistake I always see new entrepreneurs face is that they believe that keep their messaging super broad, capture as many people as possible, make it as broad and generic as possible. Essentially, they're not saying that, but that's what they're thinking. So that way they can capture more people. Now, I really understand that because, of course, you want to make sales. Like, hello, you need the lights on, right? Pay bills. You want to capture as many people as possible. But if you're talking so broad, you're not actually going to make that impact with each person. You can't have a message for every person. It's just not going to connect. And if you're not making an impactful connection, you're just going to lose people. They're going to lose interest in you because we all have really short attention spans. So if you're just spreading it that way, and instead of focusing on who actually wants your product and who actually needs your product, they might not even know that they need your product. But if you talk to them a way that is speaking to them, it'll click in their brain and they'll be like, oh, wow, I actually do need help in that area. That makes sense, right? So if you make it make sense for them and you're talking to them like, in a way that connects, that's a way that's going to capture people that are actually going to turn into sales, versus before you're talking to this audience, but they're like, yeah, okay, whatever. They keep walking down that grocery store aisle, right? Get something that
Right.
captures them. They're going to put it in the cart and they're actually going to act on it. So that's
Yeah.
a big.
And it is really hard. I know there's a few bloggers in this group, not a lot, but a few. And, from my standpoint as a blogger, looking at analytics, it can feel so depressing to see like these small numbers of people that actually get to your blog. And I had this one person that I was speaking with that was a fellow blogger, and she talked about how she had this like super, like this viral post basically, and she was getting like 1,000 page views a day, or it was crazy. Like that's what I get in a month right now. And right, so it was a lot.
That's
But then
great.
I saw her in another group ask about what bounce rate means and what's a good bounce rate, because hers was in the 90s.
Oh,
Right. So, and I'm not speaking against her, but
right.
she's done all this work on SEO and keyword research and grabbing people and getting them to her post. Well, that's great, but if it's the wrong people, I'm proud to say that I have low page views at this point, but my bounce rate ranges anywhere from 35 to 65% generally. And you got to also look at like how long people are spending on your page. This isn't just for blogging, for any kind of website, right? Are they going through and going to one or more pages? So for anyone that doesn't know, if you have a landing page for your service, say you're selling something, are they clicking through the products and looking at them? Each click is adding the bounce rate, right? So I think that this point is so very important for beginners to really understand that it can be very tempting to want a big audience, because especially in corporate, we're taught in sales like it's a numbers game. If you knock on 50 doors, you 10% buy, that's better than if you knock on 5 doors, and right. And so you think a lot of us are trained and conditioned with this thought process about just throw it out there and see what sticks.
Yeah, exactly. And then people get so deflated whenever they're throwing so many
Right.
things,
Right.
not sticking, and they're like, what the heck is going on? I'm doing the work, right? Yeah, but you got to like think about it, make it count. Like if you're putting something out there for your business, I want you to make it count, because
Right.
there's nothing like being an entrepreneur. You work all the time. There's no entrepreneur that's like a brand new one that's not working all the time. It's a fact. So make all your efforts and time count. It's
Yes.
quality over quantity for sure, right?
Yeah.
I'm
And
sure you have
so,
lots of people in your group talk about that.
and that ties into your third mistake that people make, because what they're focusing on those big numbers, right?
Yeah.
I saw this in another group, and it was just such a great thing. Sometimes they feel graspy, right? They just got to like get that sale.
Maybe.
Baby, right? So tell us about mistake number 3.
Mistake number 3. I wish I had a drum roll button. I don't. Not today. I'm working from home today. In my office, my brother and I, who's also an entrepreneur, we have like hype buttons, and we have one that does like a hilarious like song.
Oh, that's funny.
Anyway, I need one at my house too. But anyway, third mistake is thinking that if I focus on sales first before anything else, then the rest is going to follow. Like I can put my branding off till later. Now, I also understand it. I get all these mistakes. I mean, I'm not an entrepreneur too, right? Like we've all been there.
We all get feelings.
We all get feelings. We're in it. Like we're just making it happen, right? So I get that. Like you want sales, but if you think about it this way, if you were to put some time and effort into your branding, again, makes more impact on people, captures people right away, it's going to be more impactful and actually make a return on sales than if you just focus on the sales first. It's like, chicken and the egg situation. You do need the branding first to get those sales to happen. So that's one thing I see all the time is, people just making that a focus, and then they just forget all the foundational things that need to go into your business and your branding. Because if you're flying at the seat of your pants and you're not setting up for the long run, you're going to see that affect your sales. Because what makes you unique? What makes you stand out? What's going to click in your consumers' brains? that's going to make them actually make the sale, come back, think about you when they need your product or service. What's going to capture them? It's your branding. So if you set that up first, and then you really go all in on marketing and sales, that's the order it should be in. That's what's going to actually make them purchase. So that's the thing.
It makes sense, and it really makes sense in anything you're doing, right? So
Yeah.
well, for example, for shopping, they buy from Amazon, or sometimes, they buy from a website that they think is cool and it looks good and it's easy to order and all of these things, right? And a lot of that comes with the brand. It comes with the look, the feel, the message when you land on that page. It works for, it's the same thing for blogging, because, if you go to a page and it's hard to read around, or people don't have enough photos and it's just this big long piece of text, people will step.
Not the long blocks of text.
Right. So really,
I'll cut back on that.
anything. Right? And you go to a photography website, it better be organized and easy, because you're not going to hire a photographer that doesn't have a good, that it doesn't look good, right? So what business you are in, making sure that you have the look and feel and the cohesion and the right message at the right point is so important before you start. Otherwise, people will be turned off and not come back.
And I mean, there's plenty of sites that I've checked out where I've been like, ooh, unprofessional, bye. And then I go to the next page. I mean, I've been going to a lot of networking events lately, in person, which has been nice. And I'll, look up these people's websites and check them out. Like, one person gave me a digital marketing website, and I was like, cool, let me check it out.
Wow. Digital marketing better look good.
It was scary. And I was like, how are you going to attract people for that specific area if your website's not set up for it? So it builds confidence from the consumer client end of things. So you want to build that confidence, because even people working with me, I want them to be like 100% excited to work with me and confident that I'm going to make them a success. So that's how I want to build up my website. That's the goal.
Right, exactly. And that goes for your social media presence, goes for having it all cohesive, so that when people look at it, they see the right colors, the right tone of voice, the right speaking voice and everything, and know that it's the same person, the same business.
Yeah, every single customer touch point, social, like you said, website, emails that you send them. I mean, literally everywhere, because they're going to be analyzing it whether they realize it or not. But if like one thing's a little bit sketchy or not looking professional, I'm not trying to invest my hard-earned money in that to help my business, especially because I'm running a business. But yeah, so you really need to make sure, like, every touch point, also that they all look, well, we said cohesive, but let's say you're scrolling through Facebook today and you scroll and you're like, you notice something, you're like, click it, because they recognize the brand, like, oh, what does Daphne have to say today? So they click it. That's what's going to make them stop. So what is your brand doing that's going to make them stop as they scroll to read what you have to say? So think about it that way. Like, when you're creating the copywriting image, what's going to make them stop? That's going to be a game changer. But also, while it's on my brain, think about your story too, like how you're presenting yourself, sharing your story. Think about, all the shoe brands in the world, right? There's probably a ton of logos popping up in your head. There's Nike, there's Adidas, all of them. But if you're thinking about brands that make an impact, think about Tom's. Are you more likely to tell your friends and family a story about Adidas or Nike, or are you going to talk more about Tom's and how they have philanthropy? They give shoes back to people who need shoes, and all over the world. If that story was new to you, you would really deep dive and tell somebody about it, right? So think about how you're presenting yourself, what makes you unique. That's something really important as well.
Absolutely. And I think the branding should be on the front end. And I'm not saying I have regrets in my business at all, because I was very fortunate, Lean, another member of the group in another Facebook group, to get my look and feel and the colors and everything correct. But I think the messaging is so important too. And don't get so caught up in the words either, because it really needs to be your authentic voice. You want they read it to hear you say it,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it makes it more, relatable and like I said, it's speaking directly to them versus just some generic audience. So, there's always opportunities to change up your branding as well. We're all evolving, in life you evolve, so is your business. So if it's ever, and that's the beauty of running a business is you can always go back and make changes.
Your choice. Yeah.
It's not life or death, right? You can always just go back and make tweaks. But if you really feel like you need that tweak, a little refresh, go back and fix your brand. Like, make those tweaks that's gonna, connect. Like you said, looking through the data, you see this customer is actually the one who's interested. Make those changes. It's running a business is like a game. You just have to try different things and strategies and put the puzzle pieces together to make it work. So branding is a huge part of that. I mean, that's who you are. That's what makes your customer confident. Recognition. When they need you, they're going to think about you. There's so many things. I could go on like a TikTok.
But we're going to stop.
Yeah, we're going to stop. I know I'm on time. I just like talking to Daphne.
So to summarize, be consistent, but don't post just to post. Quality over quantity. Mistake number 2, you don't need a broad audience. You need the right audience. And number 3, don't focus on sales before you put yourself together, right? You have to have the brand. So those are the 3 things. We're going to make sure everybody watching has the links they need to Blaire's stuff. And we'll make sure, because you've got a new podcast, we've got the course, you have some other new parts of your business that you've started. So yeah, we'll put it all in there and we'll make sure that everybody gets connected as they need to.
Yeah, and I know that you'll probably link the free webinar. It's a free training for marketing, and it just dives into what we talked about today. So check it out. Free.
We'll get, and anyone in the Facebook group that is watching this live or watches on replay, mark replay and put any questions in that you have, and we'll keep an eye on that. Thank you so much, Blaire.
Thanks for having me, Daphne. It was such a fun thing to wake up to today. So I'm pumped that I got this interview. I was like, oh,
it's 6:30.